It's time to take a little bit of a break from relocation talk here on Locked On Coyotes. Let's go back to the Grow the Game series. Caitlin Hogan of the University of Arizona women's hockey program comes on today's show as we help, once again, growing the game.
You're Locked On Coyotes, your daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the show, everybody. This is Locked On Coyotes, your number one daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes. Today's episode brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. We've been talking relocation for the last 10 days. I figured now would be a time to take just a little bit of a break, take a step back, and share with you guys an interview I had in the vault, kind of waiting for a while, sitting for a little bit. Been meaning to release this to you guys a long time ago, but because of all the uncertainty around the Arizona Coyotes and some technical difficulties on my end, it became an unreleased episode. So I know a lot of you guys were waiting for it. I teased it happening a while ago. Caitlin Hogan, the new University of Arizona women's hockey coach, is joining us on today's show. So let's get right into it. And welcome, everyone, to this episode of Locked On Coyotes, number one daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes. And for quite frankly, all of hockey in Arizona. I'm your host, Robin Leonio. It's a great new episode of the Grow the Game series, our 7th episode of the Grow the Game series, where we interview players, media, coaches, any kind of personnel who are dedicated in Arizona to growing the sport of hockey right here in this state. Our new guest, Caitlin Hogan, the first head coach of the University of Arizona women's hockey team. Caitlin, excited to have you on, and bear down.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you so much for having me.
It certainly is a pleasure. Let's go ahead and get things started on this by allowing our listeners to get to know you and your background in hockey and what brought you here to Arizona.
Sure. So I have an extensive hockey background. I was born and raised in St. Paul, Minnesota, land of 10,000 lakes. I had a pond in my backyard growing up, learned how to skate when I was 2 years old, started holding a hockey stick right away. And I started officially becoming a hockey player when I was 4 years old. That was my love. That was my passion. Although I was involved in many sports as I grew up, I always found my sanity on the ice. I ended up going to St. Cloud State, which is a Division I school for college, played there 4 years, and ended my 4-year time there as the all-time point leading scorer in school history, which I still hold to this day, which I'm proud because I was a little nervous with those 5-year COVID year athletes coming through. I was a little concerned, but I still have that record there. After college, I decided to kind of pack my bags and see what life was like on the West Coast. My sister lives in California, and so I moved out there and kind of crashed on her couch a little bit just to see if I could find a job and kind of find my footing out on the West Coast. And that's where I started kind of officially coaching through a young ladies program called the Anaheim Lady Ducks. I started there right out of the gate, so it was early spring 2010. And I started coaching their 14 and under team and kind of walked through that process with those girls all the way up until they were 19. And I kind of graduated them off to college. But that was a great experience for me. I had coached a little bit here and there through high school and through college, but that was my first time officially coaching. Through that time, through that experience, I was also trying my hand with Olympic weightlifting. I was on Team USA from 2015 to 2020, went to 2 different Olympics for that sport. I was alternates for the 2016 and 2020 Olympic team for that sport. And that kind of took me off of the hockey track for a while. My Olympic weightlifting coach was like, skating is very strenuous on the hips. It takes a lot of strength and it takes a lot of power out of your weightlifting. So I had to take a little break. But also during that time, it allowed me to open up my own fitness center where it's in California. It's still open to this day. I did that. I got my master's in kinesiology as well during that time. And it just gave me a little bit of time away from the ice and showed me like that's where my true passion is coaching ice hockey, getting girls on the ice, teaching what I love to do. That's kind of what has brought me full circle into getting back on the ice and back as a coach. I saw that the U of A was hiring. I actually saw that they had a women's program. I was looking at the university specifically for kind of strength and conditioning opportunities and saw that the women's team was being formed and going to start in 2024. So I turned in my resume and had some conversations with a lot of different people on campus, went through the official process of interviewing for that job, and I was thankfully chosen. And I've been hard at work recruiting, traveling, having many conversations with players and community members, and just trying to get the word out that the team is coming, that we're going to be hitting the ice, I guess, September 2024. And we're ready to go, ready to rock.
What was the initial draw? I mean, you said you just saw the application open at the university, but what was the initial draw that brought you into the state for Arizona? Because I love to hear, because people, when it comes to hockey individuals in Arizona, everyone's got different stories. Most people say because of the weather.
Yeah, that's true. I have been going back and forth. My in-laws are in Tucson, so I've been going
Okay.
back and forth from California to Tucson since 2014. And I mean, you can't help but fall in love with the U of A when you're in town. Like everybody has the Block A on, everybody has the Wildcat on, and kind of meeting somebody from Tucson, they already have that love for the Wildcats. So becoming a part of the college town, I've always been kind of attracted to the U of A. I've watched their basketball team, the football team, the softball team. Kind of became a fan myself, and that's kind of what made me look at the U of A as well.
Now, talk about that process with that recruiting and getting everyone over, because essentially starting a whole new program. You're not like inheriting any pre-existing players or anything like that. You're starting from fresh on getting, and like I said, you are the first coach to coach the University of Arizona women's hockey, starting completely from scratch. And what's that process like?
You know, it's a blessing because we don't have any like baggage that I have to clean up or I have to come in and kind of get everybody's buy-in. Like I get to start fresh with what I feel is important as a foundation. Myself as an athlete, I've always put effort and energy and positivity at the forefront of the game because those are things that you can control as an athlete. You can't control how your skills are going to be on a day to day. So we're starting kind of that foundation fresh. As I reach out to players, it's not hard to sell, 80-degree weather, like on average year round, especially when we get to play in an ice rink. So even if they are here in the summer, like we get that break from the summers. And it's a great program. Now, kind of coming from that NCAA world where everybody wants to become a Division One athlete. For ice hockey, we have Division One, which is like your normal standard large universities that you have the option to choose from. But then we also only have an NCAA Division Three. There's no Division Two. So you basically take those large schools from Division One. Anybody that can't play at that level, their really only options are on the East Coast, in the Midwest, like upper Midwest, and they're all small schools. So that's another kind of thing that I hang our hat on for the University of Arizona is like, if you want to go to a big university and you want to play for a passionate coach, you want to like learn from somebody who's been in that Division One kind of like atmosphere, the U of A is a great option. It's not hard to sell to those Canadians. It's not hard to sell to people on the East Coast. I'm like, are you sick of shoveling snow and digging your car out in negative degrees? Like, come down to the U of A. And as soon as I get them on campus, like, it's the game's over then.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting when I hear about that and how that works. I talked to a reporter a while back on one of our episodes. He was one of the main reporters covering Arizona State's men's hockey program before they went D1, and pretty much in the same kind of vein, bringing people from the north. It's like, hey, you can leave the arena in shorts and flip flops because the weather is perfect outside. What more can you ask for? And today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. A lot of you guys might be frustrated when it goes to buying tickets to your favorite sporting event, whether it's baseball, hockey, or anything in between. You might get your ticket. You might be surprised by the crazy fees that comes up. The views from your seat might not have met your expectations based off the price you paid. GameTime is out there to fix it all. You can pick out specific games and matchups you'd like to attend. Once again, I'm talking, some MLB games here, Stanley Cup playoffs, Calder Cup playoffs. For those Tucson Roadrunners fans out there, you can get so many great deals from last-minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals, easy to find and buy tickets for all kinds of events in your area. View seats in the venue. That's the key, Pete. You can actually see the seats in your venue, so you know what you're getting before you hit purchase. They get the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, and job loss protection. You can save up to 60% off buying last minute from sports, comedy, concerts, theater, and more. Zone deal, all-in pricing, seat views, all of that, all in one app. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets and download GameTime. Create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the GameTime app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And that's kind of what I keep saying to the girls. I'm like, it's beautiful outside. Like, I was just spending all of my time out this morning outside, and I'm talking to girls where they're buried in their house with snow.
Is there any talks of with any out of the local girls? Because I know the Kachina's program here has been fantastic. We talked with Lindsay Fry was one of our first guests of the Girl of the Game program, and just talked about how quickly that program has grown. And there's even their U19 is tier 1, is one of the top tiers. Has there been discussions with any of the girls coming out of those programs?
Definitely. So I actually earlier invited all the 16 and under, 19 and under Kachinas down. I had them out for a practice with me, walked them around campus, and just kind of allowed them to see the campus kind of from their eyes and see what I was building in terms of a hockey program down here. I have two young ladies that are on the 19 and under team for the Kachinas, Ellie Gilbert and gosh, why can't I not remember her name off the top of my head? Savannah Allen. Those two young ladies are from the Kachina program, and they will be playing at the U of A next year with us. I think it's amazing that we have such great talent coming out of Arizona. And now that we have two individual teams that people can watch, I think that's going to be massive for the growth of the game. The building of the upcoming ice facility that we are going to get from the Mosaic quarters, I think that's also going to allow a lot of young ladies to get some ice skates on that probably would never have thought of that in the past. And give hockey a try, because as soon as you see the game, you can't help but be interested in it. It's such a fast sport. It's such a fun sport to watch.
Yeah, you mentioned the Mosaic Quarter, and that's one of the things that I have been looking forward to seeing open in Tucson. I want to see it sooner rather than later. Obviously, I think it's still I believe it's still a couple years away.
2026. Yep.
2026. So the first couple of years still playing at the Tucson Convention Center. How hard is that going to be with scheduling? Because as of right now, because you got the Tucson Adult Hockey program, you got the Junior Roadrunners, you got the Roadrunners themselves, the U of A men's hockey program, as well as you guys now. Is there been discussion about that, of how scheduling is going to work?
There has been, and I mean, working at the TCCs, it has the pros and the cons, both. Pros, everybody's used to watching hockey there. So kind of having a new team, I think it's a lot better to be in the existing facility and be like, hey, come and watch a different style of hockey, a women's game that maybe you haven't seen before, rather than having a lot of newness up front. So I do think there's some positivity in it. Scheduling is going to get a little bit I would say difficult, but it's something that we're willing to kind of work around. One of the ideas that we have is potentially having back-to-back games where we play and then the men's team plays, or vice versa. The men's team plays first and then we play. It's a little easier to schedule it that way when the Tucson Roadrunners are out of town. and on the road, it's easier for us to schedule together than to try to work through all three of those schedules. We may have some odd game times like a Wednesday game or maybe a Sunday game, but I kind of see that as an opportunity to get young families out, young kids out of school, and like kind of give them an opportunity to see the game instead of having it be like a 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. Saturday night game that's a little bit more geared towards the college student. We might have a different fan base, but I'm looking forward to kind of getting involved a little bit more in that community.
Have you been getting the opportunity? I'm sure you have at this point, but to talk a lot with Chad Berman and the coach of the men's program, and just share ideas of what both of the programs look like.
Definitely. I've spent a ton of time with Chad. I've been on the ice with him and the men's team. This is going to be a growth program for both of us. We're going to lean on the men's team. The men's team can kind of lean on us. They've been here for such a long period of time. Chad's been extremely successful in kind of turning around the program that was here. I've been taking as much advice as I can from him. I really look up to him in terms of how he's been able to deal with the schedule, how he's built the successful team that he's built, and kind of the culture that he's been able to build as well. I've been learning a lot about that process, and also learning about the ACHA in general. They have a lot of different kind of like rules for who's making it to nationals, how playoffs work, how points work. All of that is relatively new to me, and it's really nice to have Chad to kind of lean on and learn more about that.
Yeah, and because I'm trying to think too of all that experience as well. You're talking with, I think I'm trying to think how long he's been with the program now. He's been
I
as
think
long
10
since
years.
yeah, I was gonna
I
say
think
ever
that's what he was
since.
saying.
Yeah, I was like, I know he was coach in his first couple years when I was a student at the University of Arizona. And I felt like that's a long time ago already.
Goes quickly.
But it really does. But it's probably good, refreshing to have that kind of experience and to be able to, guys, like I said, to share those ideas as you're building up a new program.
And there's different coaching like thought process as well that we
Right.
can lean on each other. I grew up in a different place. I grew up in a different like time than him as well. So kind of like learning from one another and seeing what's important to us. I definitely like threw some of my drills at the men's team and gave them a new perspective on some things. And I think it created a lot of like new opportunities and some fun environment for the guys to play this year as well.
So what are your goals for the inaugural season? And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball is in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that's safe, secure, and easy to use. I'll know one thing's for sure is I'm betting on a lot of things Stanley Cup playoffs, whether it's, of a pick I made even before the season started, picking the Dallas Stars to win the Stanley Cup, among a few other picks I made. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And today's episode is brought to you by Policy Genius. Policy Genius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It saves you time and money so you can provide your family with a financial safety net starting today. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. Policy Genius helps compare your options from top companies of their team's licensed experts, and you can easily compare quotes from top insurers in just a few clicks to find your lowest price. Your work life insurance policy may not offer enough protection for your family's need. Even worse, it may not come with you if you leave your job. Policy Genius gives unbiased advice from licensed experts, and they have no incentive to recommend one insurer over another, so you can trust their guidance. thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot from customers who found their best fit for their needs. Check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com/LockedOnNHL or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes. See how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/LockedOnNHL.
Oh, that's a great question. I think first and foremost, we really need to set the tone on what U of A women's hockey is and how we are to be expected in game situations on campus, traveling, all of those things. It's going to be really new to everybody. Getting everybody on the same page is going to be my most important thing. I hang my hat on working as hard as you possibly can, being relentless on the ice, being gritty. I know myself, a lot of people say that I would like put my head through the wall as a player. I expect that out of my team. And I really want our reputation to be a team that never gives up. Um, by all means, I wanna win our games. I obviously wanna like be as successful as possible, but I think kind of setting that tone and setting that pace on if you come and play U of A hockey, you better be ready for a team that doesn't quit. And that's gonna be my first and foremost goal for this first year.
And I think that certainly is a good goal. And um, I think what a lot of from the experience that I've seen, a lot of teams fail to do, like they just try to they think too much when they first start rather than like establish the identity from the get go. And you can tell it looks, if a team can look disorganized in that case. So I feel like getting that identity established and establishing that tone, as you said, I feel like that's really important. That's something that severely gets overlooked.
I think so too. The game has changed a lot. It's become a lot of like X's and O's and trying to like have the pretty pass or like the pretty play. But really, it all comes down to like the foundation and the function of the game. Like, as long as you are controlling the puck, as long as you're taking away time and space, it's going to be a hard thing to score on. It's going to be a hard team to play against. And I think if we start from there and kind of build up and get a little bit more specific as the time goes on, I think we'll be in a good place.
Has there been any kind of more like a little more of like a fun question in a bit? Has there been any discussion on establishing games against the Arizona State women's hockey program? Because I know they've been around for I think a few years now. Is there any discussion on that to see if you can get like a little friend, at least starting maybe a friendly rivalry, or you're just full on rivalry going from the get go?
I think always you're going to have a full-on rivalry with ASU and U of A, regardless of what teams it is, regardless of how many times they played each other. We're looking to pick up right on that rivalry. I'm a friendly competitor. I'm going to be very, very hard to compete against, but absolutely, we're going to have some games against ASU. Hopefully, looking to build something like the Cactus Cup, like the men's team has, kind of like creating that bond. Maybe even between us, GCU, and ASU, kind of like a three-part series of all the Arizona-based teams, something along those lines. But we will definitely be up there. They will definitely be down here. Travel-wise, it's the easiest game for us to play as well. So hopefully we'll set that pace, getting everybody down here and supporting U of A.
Absolutely. I love to hear that. I want to take a step back a little bit and look more bigger picture. One of the most important things that I love to talk about on the Grow the Game series, rather than just, all the on, it's a lot of it on ice, but more rather than just like individual team, but looking more community based. Like what's do you have a focus on, helping grow this game community wise? Tucson, I know it's still growing. It's been growing exponentially the last few years, but I feel like every individual we've talked to over this Grow the Game series has talked about how important the community is to growing the sport in Arizona.
Definitely. It's massive, and really, like, our team can't be successful without the support of the community. Everybody in the community already supports U of A, so it's just a matter of making sure that people know that we are there and kind of creating that presence. I've always been kind of like a person that gives back. I feel when you have a talent and a passion for something, it's your job to kind of share that with the upcoming generation. And that's something that I've always had a focus on as a coach is, you plant the seeds you can't see, like you try to grow the trees that are up and coming. Getting players and people out to our games is going to be first and foremost most important, but I also think allowing young ladies in the community to understand that this is something that they can try. It's something that's fun, not only to young girls, but also maybe like older women as well, 18 plus. Like there's people in Tucson who have never put on a pair of ice skates. And like
Hmm.
trying something new is fun and exciting. And hopefully we'll have kind of the opportunity to allow that growth at the TCC, but we absolutely will have that focus once we get in the mosaic quarters and we have a couple more ice sheets that we can work off of. But that's going to be one of my biggest things: fundraising, getting out in the community, volunteering, just getting ourselves more involved in the community of Tucson.
And if I saw correctly, that you were also, offering some, training sessions, like close, like, I get individual small group training sessions for people to help, focus on their skill sets, regardless of, I think, age level as well.
Definitely. And like the last kind of, I would say, 5 years or so, my focus has really shifted as a coach, in terms of getting people to understand that they can build their bodies from the inside out as well. I think there's been such a priority set on lifting weights and getting stronger and getting bigger. But if you only are working on the external, like skeleton, the inside starts to break down. And that's why you're seeing so many different injuries happen, a lot of soft tissue injuries, tendon injuries, all of the Achilles tears that happened in the NFL this year. There's so many injuries that are happening. And I kind of attribute that to putting too much of an emphasis on over strength training or getting too big too fast. And so that's one of the things that I can offer, and especially in an area where we don't have ice in the summer. Like this is the time where we take a step back from the specifics of the sport. We don't have to spend all of our time on the ice, skating, stick handling, shooting. Those are important, but I think also taking care of the human being behind the athlete is an important thing as well.
Absolutely love to hear that. Anything I haven't asked that you feel like is really important to share about, the Arizona women's hockey program, hockey in Arizona. Essentially at this point, the last few minutes of this show, just want to give you a completely like open mic, talk about anything that you feel like might be important.
Yeah, one of the things that I've been bringing up, I've been interviewed by a couple people here and there, and one of the things that I'm bringing up and kind of making well known is we actually aren't the first women's program at the U of A. There was a team from 1995 to 2000, around that time frame, where there was a women's team. They were called the Arizona Icers, and they couldn't use the Wildcat name just because I think the Ice Cats kind of like really kind of stifled them. So they were out of campus rec, just like we are going to be out of campus rec. They played in the first ACHA league that was allowed. And we were made aware of this from their goalie, actually reached out to myself and Troy Vaughn, the senior director of campus recreation, and is like, hey, did you know there was a women's program here? And we didn't. And I think that is, it kind of has shown in women's sports is that we are easily overlooked. We're easily forgotten.
Hmm.
And that's one thing that I want to ensure that people understand is there was a women's program here, and we want to like really celebrate what they fought for and what they worked through, and just for the simple love of the game and the passion for the sport. They really tried to make the sport grow here in Tucson, and we want to honor them and kind of build off of the foundation that they set as well.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that with me. That's something that actually I was unaware about. That I think really kind of brings that good help and strengthen the understanding of hockey in this state, and really just the state of women's hockey in general, and just like how quickly it's going now. Obviously, with the PWHL, if you've seen it, they're hitting the ground running even stronger than the PHF or the NWHL or any of the other previous leagues have. It's just a lot of people are investing in women's hockey now, and I love
Mhm.
to see it.
Yeah, and you have to like always give thanks to where the sport has come from. When I
Hmm.
started playing, I played on all boys teams, and then they finally had girls high school teams that I could play on, and girls college teams, and like it's been a slow process, but you always have to thank the people that were able to kind of like fight for the sport that what it is now. And now the PWHL is packing arenas. They're selling out crowds. It's such a cool thing to see.
Absolutely. Anything else as we close
No,
things
that's
off?
all I
No,
got.
that's all you got. Well, Caitlin,
Yep.
I really appreciate you coming on, and it's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
And that's it for today's episode of Locked On Coyotes. I hope you enjoyed this little bonus episode, this stepping away from relocation talk just for a little bit as we help grow the game of hockey here in Arizona. And we're going to continue to do that. I will find ways, even as we start the process of relocating this podcast to Utah Hockey Talk. I'll still find out a way, maybe even outside this show, to continue to grow the game of hockey in Arizona. If you want to be able to continue to follow that, be sure to follow me on social media. I am at Robin_Leano. That's Robin with the Y_LEANO. If you like what you heard on today's episode, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe if you have yet to already. We're available everywhere you get your podcasts, including on YouTube, SiriusXM, ad-free on Amazon Music, and on social media. We're on at @LO_Coyotes. Interact with us. Ask any question you might have. We might answer right back or in a future episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to today's episode. Hope you guys are staying safe out there. Hope you guys are staying healthy. And don't forget to howl on forever.